Okay, guys, today we're going to take a little road trip and we're going to visit one of my old friends, Frank Alexander of Alexander Services. Frank runs a company that deals with HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, and we're going to talk to him about consignment warehousing. All right, let's hit the road. Where did I put the damn keys? I think it's in here somewhere. Oh! Good afternoon, everybody. As I told you guys, I took a little bit of a road trip, and I'm here with one of my good friends, Frank. I've known Frank, was it 12 years now?
Almost 12 years.
12 years, yeah. I met Frank when I was still in distribution. Met with Frank in his living room. He had one employee, I believe.
Me.
It was me. And now Frank has built himself an empire, and I'm really proud to call him friend. So I want to talk to Frank a little bit about inventory management today.
Sure.
He is really, really good at this inventory piece. And as we know, I'm kind of digging in on the software side of these things. So I've prepared some questions. We're just going to kind of dig into it. But before we do, I want Frank just kind of tell you guys a little bit about himself.
Well, my name is Frank Alexander. We started our company 12 years ago out of our garage. And in the past 12 years, we've grown this into a multi-million-dollar company where we now have about 17 vehicles out on the road and about 30 employees for that. It was built between me and my wife, and she does most of the marketing end and customer-facing branding type part of the business. I'm more the operations end of it and trying to write all the procedures and software and inventory is kind of a thing that I've done in my prior careers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it because we're going to talk here in just a minute. I'm sorry about the mic thing. My other mic didn't come in yet. So we're just going to try to do the best we can here. So, Frank, just quickly, managing inventory, because you're in all three trades. You do heating and air, plumbing, and electrical. You have both your own warehouse here and you have a consignment warehouse.
Correct.
And so we probably need to just differentiate. So consignment warehouse is actually something that I helped Frank with when I was still with a distributor. It's the product still actually belongs to the distributor,
Exactly.
but it's in your location.
Exactly.
And so when it gets checked out, that's when you get charged for it, pretty much.
It's like having your store in my warehouse.
Right. And actually, there's some benefits to that, I would
Right.
think. Right?
Absolutely.
Right? So especially maybe even, and I was thinking about this driving over here today, it's like, yeah, you can have the stuff yourself, but the OEM parts is something that you don't necessarily want to have ownership of, right?
Correct.
I know you sell a lot of York, so York circuit board, that's not something you necessarily want because when that circuit board goes and there's a new one out on the market, then you want them to come get that one. You don't want to own it, right?
That's right.
All right.
Right.
And then you have your own warehouse where you probably a little bit more installation supplies and stuff?
Well, it's more for materials that I can't get through a consignment type deal with some of the suppliers. A lot of my electrical supplies are non-consignment because I can't get a consignment agreement up with my electrical vendor.
Good.
So.
Now, and I know we have questions, but I just like talking more. So talk to me a little bit about how software plays a role in making that easier for you.
Well, the software is, especially for the consignment end of it, we track in and out the consignment through our software. So we, behind me here, we've got a laptop set up to scan in and out the material as we pull it from the consignment. The software end of it keeps track of how much is in inventory and then how much we're pulling, and it decides at the end of the week we run a report and it actually spits out a report. We send that to the vendor and the vendor uses that to replenish our inventory once a week.
Now, I know also when I was servicing your account that we would do once a quarter, we would do a count. And I remember you were my favorite account to count because you would hand me a sheet and say, this is what I see. and I would have my sheet, and we would go through real quickly and double check. And so the cycle counts was actually quite easy here.
Yeah.
So I would think that any person that is looking to do this type of thing for their shop needs some type of software to help them manage this better.
Absolutely.
Now-
So if you left it up to the vendor and the vendor skipped cycle counts or, just took their time to getting there, you're at their mercy of saying what you should and shouldn't have, and then they could hit you with bills that you weren't expecting. With having our own inventory system, we can then compare it. And like you said, the cycle counts are not much easier because we don't have to count the stuff that we're agreement on.
Right.
And say that they are there, but although we still count a few of them at a time to make sure that those numbers are correct. But it's really focusing on the ones where we have a difference of a number.
Now, how do you manage to get the stuff out of the consignment warehouse into the truck? And then who owns it in the truck?
We own it after it gets in the truck.
Okay, so when it goes to the truck, so your technician would come in, request the part.
Right.
And I know how it works here. There's a check-in and check-out process. It's not a free-for-all, right?
No.
And so, but then that checks out, it goes on the truck, but at that point, it belongs to Alexander,
Yeah,
right?
so this part of our warehouse is under lock and key and cameras. So the technicians do not have access to this. We actually have a clerk who signs it in, or they go through the accounting person and request it, and that person signs it out. So they do not have free reign in here at all. So what they do is we just developed a Google form, and they just fill out a blank form, say, I need 2 more of these, or 3 more of these, or 4 more of these, and then that Google form gets emailed to our accounting clerk, and she just refills it, takes it, and puts it in a bin, so that the tech can come in at any time after that he fills that form out, and replenish his truck from the bin in another warehouse.
Okay, and so, do you know, is there a software piece you're using to track the inventory on the truck?
Not at the present. One of my background is engineering, and especially industrial engineering, is I use the KISS principle on
Yeah.
everything. It's like, keep it simple.
Right.
The more complex you're doing, you're taking away from the technician's time for what their real purpose is, and their real purpose is making sales.
Sure.
And so the more time you're having them doing red tape, you're taking away from the ability to make more sales.
Right.
So keep it as simple as possible, but as accurate as possible.
Yeah, so now that I work for the software side of things, I know that developing that piece for a technician to know exactly what's on the truck every time when he pulls up to the driveway saves time and money, right?
Right.
So I actually even took the slogan from when I was working with you and took it to the software, side of things. Let's save you time and money, because if I do, I'll be valuable to you.
Right.
And so I can see that piece. So tracking that part from the shelf here, from the distributor to your truck is important, and then for the truck to be able to check it in and out at an easy way.
Right.
Right. That would be very important.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, or maybe you have a story about you having consignment warehouse and warehouse here, because I know a lot of contractors that say, I don't want a warehouse. I don't want to tie up real estate with a bunch of stuff, but
Right.
then their guys are laying in the supply houses all the time.
Correct.
Have you seen a financial benefit by having it all on site?
Absolutely. Again, you don't want to take your time away from your technicians in selling, and the more they spend in the supplier's warehouse, you're losing money because they should be out in the field. So our accounting clerk also is the one who, if they needed something in an emergency, she's going to grab it out of our consignment and head over to the job and deliver it. And I don't know if you're like most other HVAC companies, our area is pretty large, and our vendors are scattered by 30 or 40 miles.
Yeah.
And that drive time back and forth to a vendor can eat up a lot of your ability to make sales as well. And so you end up either hiring more people to cover all your demand, whereas with this consignment, we're able to do it with fewer techs because we keep them in the customers' houses
Right.
and not out at the vendors.
Now, one thing I was always wondering is, out of the 3 industries being HVAC, plumbing, electrical, doesn't plumbing, electrical have a lot more bits and pieces to it? Like, don't you have to have a larger footprint to kind of have those little bits and pieces on stock, or is it still pretty generic?
I would say no. They have fewer pieces than
Really?
HVAC, yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, the plumbing side, we actually have consignment for plumbing, and it's about half the size of the HVAC
Okay.
consignment, yeah.
Now, do you consign equipment?
Only water heaters.
Okay. So tell me about the thought process there, because I do know that equipment consignments are out there as well. Is there a reason you don't want to do that?
I don't have room for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe bigger shop.
Bigger shop someday maybe.
So I can see the value in consigning equipment would be that Saturday, Sunday installs when the distributor's not open, that type of thing, probably help out quite a bit.
It would, but my installers like having their weekends off.
This is true. This is true. I didn't come up that way, Frank. When the phone rang, I worked. So, but you know, the piece on how I can see software kind of tying the equipment piece into it is scanning the serial numbers when they come into the warehouse. So therefore, you know, I read something the other day that said 2.5% of all equipment that's being manufactured will fail at some other point, and so and within the install process. And so to be able to capture that serial number up front when it comes through the door, you can immediately track. And then if there's within your software a way to order right away from the distributor without even making a phone call, I think that could be pretty easily done.
Yeah, the only experience I had with actually pulling material into the warehouse was during COVID when there were supply shortages. I knew my key selling pieces, so I bought a couple of extra of those when I saw that the vendors' supplies were getting short. I would keep a couple of those, but then it took me almost until last month to get rid of my last piece of equipment that I bought 2 years ago. So it's not good to have stuff in there because you just don't know when the demand is going to be for a specific piece, and they take up a lot of room.
Right. Actually, that tees me up right for my next question would be that if you have consignment here and you have consignment from the vendor, you have consignment or your own stock, do you do any forecasting? Does what you currently use help you to do some forecasting to know I'm going to need 50 contactors next June, July? Or does it not get that in depth for you?
No, it doesn't really get into it because most of the stuff we got in consignment is the generic stuff that you use on every install.
Sure.
The key thing is just having enough in our stock because there are times when the vendor will unknowingly for us, you'll be out of something and it might be like a heat kit or something. And having one or two extra heat kits on hand prevents us from shutting down an install just waiting for a heat kit to come in. Something small like that can shut you down and cost you hundreds of dollars there or thousands of dollars in lost revenue because every time you push an install out one day, you lose another day to make another install.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely true. Well, anything else you want to put out there for the people watching, all my 8 subscribers, to kind of say why you think that a software management piece would be very important for this type of situation?
Without the software part of it, you don't really have good control. You have to have good control of your inventory, and you have to have good control of your costs. Having it in consignment versus personal it means that I don't have to use my capital to buy the equipment and have all that consignment here. So that frees up my money to do other things, to invest in equipment, machines, tools, that sort of thing, instead of having it tied up in inventory. Because if it's tied up in inventory, I probably have hundreds of thousands of dollars in consignment inventory in here, easy, and it's better using that money somewhere else.
No, I can completely see that. Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons I was a big proponent of, when I dealt with all the contractors who distributing is, let us hold it for you and use it as you need it.
Right.
And it just makes sense for everybody. And it really, and what we say in the distribution side, it really kind of makes you sticky to us. It keeps you sticky with us, which is what we like.
Yeah.
So, well, Frank, thank you very much for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for eating lunch with me today. I just wanted to come in and chat with you a little bit about this. This software thing is a passion of mine now, and I'm trying to constantly get a feel for the industry to see how we can be bigger and better. So thank you for your help.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks. What a great way to spend a Thursday, eating lunch with an old friend, talking heating and air. It really takes me back to my distribution days. So, full disclosure, Frank doesn't currently use Thermogrid. He uses a different software, and then he wrote his own software for his inventory management. He was a great guy to interview. He knows a lot about inventory from his previous life and also now within heating and air. So I just thought you guys really would find it interesting to talk to him. So just to quickly touch on what Thermogrid can do, for inventory management. It's something that we do really well. We can actually manage the inventory on your van separately from what is in your warehouse. We also have the ability to, when stuff gets used off of the van or out of the warehouse, we can set it up to where emails automatically hit your purchasing agent and also your distributor. So your distributor can have the part ready and pulled by the time somebody is there to pick it up, and or they can put it in a replenishment bin for you. If you would like more information about how Thermogrid handles inventory management, please find us on thermogrid.com or reach out to me here, and I can answer some questions for you, or we can schedule a free demo for you. Again, thank you very much to Frank Alexander from Alexander Services. You guys can find him by just Googling him online. If you have any HVAC needs here within the Raleigh-Durham area, definitely keep him in mind. He runs a really good company. So again, just a fun day. I thought I'd do something a little different. If you liked this video, you found it informative, please like and subscribe to the channel so that we can start building a little bit of a more sustainable channel and get the word out a little bit better. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys soon. That looks pretty good, though.
I don't know, what's that block on my face?
It's autofocus. It's finding your face.
I'm not gonna look good. I'm a blockhead now. Gee.
You're not going to see that.